Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton with you on your Tuesday morning. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody's morning is off to a great start. We got a loaded show for you today. Christian, what's going on?
Not much. Glad to be here once again. Looking forward to it.
Yes. Yeah, we had some fun yesterday. SEC Media Days, Titans. We'll get into all of it today. Julian Mininsohn from News 2 is going to join us coming up at 9:15, so just a couple of minutes away. We'll talk some Titans with him. We will also have Daylom Swearingen live in studio, former PBR world champion. I'm excited for this, Christian. I don't know. Are you a big rodeo bull rider type of guy?
I can't say I am, but I am excited to get to know this guy and just, kind of hear about what that lifestyle is like.
Right.
Because I don't know anything about this whatsoever, so it'll be interesting.
I am excited because, I was watching a couple of clips of him, and the stuff that they do is really impressive. I've done the mechanical bulls, like in a bar, and that's as far as I'm going. Watching these guys get up on the bull and, first off, hang on for dear life, but also once they fall off, like the chaos that ensues there, crazy. So I'm excited to talk to Daylom, former PBR world champion, going to join us coming up at 10 a.m. And we'll have Andrew Allegretta, the voice of Vanderbilt, joining us live from SEC Media Days in Tampa coming up at 10:30. So excited for that. Again, loaded show for you today. Yesterday, SEC Media Days, while we were on the air, Christian, there wasn't a whole lot notable that was said. I guess the one thing that we took was Drinkwitz saying that the reason the Big Ten has won 3 straight national championships is because they don't schedule Power 5 non-conference or Power 4 non-conference opponents. But after we got off the air, there was plenty to talk about. How about Will Stein having his Curt Cignetti moment? Asked why he thinks Kentucky football can turn things around. He says, "Me."
I liked it. I honestly liked it. Obviously, being a Tennessee guy, I am not a huge Kentucky fan, but I still liked it. I respected it. I mean, if you don't believe in yourself, as a head coach, then how are your players ever going to believe in your vision for your program? So I respected it a ton.
Yes, I liked it. Like there has to be a level of arrogance if you're going to be successful at that level, right? Like if you're not confident in yourself and you don't believe that you can go turn a program around, then what's the point of even being there? I'll look back to the Any Given Saturday documentary last year where they talked to Clark Lee, and he said it might come off as arrogant, but I view myself as the savior of this program. And yeah, it might sound arrogant and egotistical. And it's like, man, you really think that highly of yourself. But if you don't, then you're probably not going to be successful at that level. If you don't have 100% belief that you are the person to lead that program to a national championship, even if it's not the most realistic thing in the world, but if you don't believe it, then it's never going to happen. So I like that from Will Stein yesterday. Curt Cignetti backed it up with his Google Me, I win at Big Ten Media Days 2 years ago. We'll see what Will Stein can do this year.
Yeah, Joe and Robbie were saying we need to go find the audio of them the day Curt Cignetti said that, because they said, man, we made fun of him that day.
Right.
Everybody probably did, though. So.
As somebody who I was in the Commonwealth of Virginia while he was coaching there, you knew Curt Cignetti was a good coach, so I didn't bat an eye as much at it. But yeah, to go to Indiana football and say that, Google Me, I win, and then win a national championship 2 years later, one of the craziest stories in sports. So for Will Stein yesterday, obviously that's going to draw headlines when he's basically saying, I am the reason that I'm confident that we can turn this thing around. But if you don't have that confidence in yourself, no one else is going to have that confidence in you. So I liked it from Will Stein. And then my favorite thing that was said on day one of SEC Media Days was Josh Heupel talking about Lane Kiffin, telling Tennessee fans that to go grab their mustard bottles and their golf balls before Lane Kiffin shows up to Neyland Stadium this year. I thought that was great.
I'm kind of excited to see what Lane's response is going to be to this. I don't know if they're tomorrow or Thursday.
They're Thursday.
Okay, so we got to wait a little bit. But I'm very excited to see, because we know Lane's going to get asked about this. So I'm excited to see what his response is, and just made me a little bit more excited for that game that I was already pretty excited for.
Yeah, I mean, I think and the SEC wasn't going to do it because it's just causing chaos for no reason. But putting Ole Miss and LSU on the same day, I think would have been hilarious. But they are on different days. Ole Miss is tomorrow. LSU is on Thursday. But yeah, Lane's going to get a whole lot of questions about you're going to be the villain in the SEC this year, specifically returning to two places that you used to be the head coach at. I know it's not the first time he's gone back to Knoxville, but still returning to Knoxville. Tennessee fans, they can hold a grudge. And the Ole Miss game, I listed it 2 weeks ago as my number one game in college football this year, just because of the storylines that are going into it. So I'm excited to see how Lane responds on Thursday, because I'm sure he's going to be asked, what's going to be the mentality going into those hostile environments where all of the hostility is going to be directed squarely at the head coach?
Yeah, and I think those comments by Heupel kind of elevated that game a little bit, because when you think about Lane Kiffin and LSU this year, the first thought, like you said, it's your most anticipated game this year. The first thought is Ole Miss,
right.
Week 3. You forget, he's got to go to Tennessee too at the end of the year when they might be fighting for a playoff spot. Tennessee could be 2, maybe not. We'll see. But both of those teams, what if both those teams have 2 losses going into that game? It's basically a playoff elimination game. I mean, that's going to be insane.
Lane Kiffin loves that, though. Like, that's who he is. He loves to play the villain. He'll do it on social media, and I'm sure he's going to walk out. The wrestling fans weren't happy with me about my Tom Brady conversation at the end of the show yesterday. He's going to walk out like he's the heel as the wrestler walking into to Vaught Hemingway in September, because that's what he does. He is the villain, and he loves to play the villain. And I cannot even envision what that scene is going to look like on September 19th. Like, I think whatever you're thinking of in your head, multiply it by like 3. And that is how chaotic that game is going to be. There's going to be stuff flying onto the field. There might be like, not streakers, but like people running onto the field and trying to get near Lane Kiffin. Like, you've given Ole Miss an entire day to get ready for that game. You didn't put it at noon. You put it at 8 p.m. in prime time. Game day is probably going to be there. And that student section and that fan base is going to be raring to go. Whatever you're like, hey, this is how crazy it's going to be. Multiply it by 2 or 3, because I think it is going to be one of the wildest scenes we've seen in college football in a long time.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, the scene is going to be incredible. I think the game will be pretty good too when you think about it. I mean, 2 teams that are pretty intriguing going into this year. Obviously, LSU with Kiffin coming in, kind of like we talked about yesterday. As much money as they've spent, you'd think they'll. That kind of makes you think that, LSU will be pretty solid this year. And obviously Ole Miss has a ton of guys coming back. They lost a lot to LSU, of course, but still got plenty coming back with Chambliss and Lacey there. So it should be a great game as well. It was a good game last year too.
Yeah, no, Ole Miss is not a team that is going to completely fall off a cliff now that Lane Kiffin's gone. You're right. They have Chambliss, who there are people who would have put Trinidad Chambliss as a first-round draft pick if he came out this year. I don't know if NFL teams would have, but I think there were teams that put him as QB3 right behind Ty Simpson. So he's coming back for another year. You have maybe the best running back in college football in Quan Lacey. Like, that is a good team, and they're playing at home. They've got all the motivation in the world. I think that's going to be pretty much 80% of the questions Lane Kiffin is going to face on Thursday when he shows up for media day is going to be about that game on September 19th and returning to Ole Miss. I cannot wait. And this is talking season. It's not as good as football season, but you always get some fun little nuggets like this with Josh Heupel encouraging fans to bring the mustard bottles and the golf balls when he comes to Neyland in November.
It gives us something to look forward to, if nothing else. I mean, there's not a ton going on in the sports world right now otherwise, of course. So
right.
I think the SEC did a good job specifically this year of putting it in a good spot where literally nothing else is happening.
Right.
Unlike my alma mater, MTSU, which they don't have any control over this. Conference USA decided, we'll just put our media days up against SEC media days. No, it's fine. Nobody cares.
I saw Derek Mason was speaking yesterday. So,
what are they doing? Like, put it next week or the week before. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I guess Conference USA is one of the strange ones though, because like they're so spread out that some of these regional conferences, it might be easier for you to, all right, if we're in the Southeast, like the Sun Belt, you don't want to be up against SEC media days because they kind of cover the same footprint. But the Conference USA is the entire country. And I saw that like in the last 20 years, Conference USA has completely turned over. There is not a single team who was in the conference 20 years ago that's still in it now. So there's not really a good time for them to put it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking for if like say somebody from I don't know the Murfreesboro and paper that covers Tennessee and MTSU maybe. Where do
Right.
you think they were yesterday? Do
Oh,
you think they were in Tampa or wherever Conference USA
yeah.
media
No,
days
it's
were?
a it's
That's why I just thought I was like, man, I don't know why they did that.
it's a very good point. And some of the coaches and players, you're going to get nothing out of them. Like I saw Kirby Smart, who's speaking right now. I guess at some point in his opening statement was talking about a strawberry festival in Florida. So it's like you get random boring storylines from some coaches, but then you have Josh Heupel poking the bear a little bit with Lane Kiffin yesterday, which was great. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, we've got a loaded show for you coming up today. We will be joined live in studio by Daylom Swearingen, former PBR world champion, coming up at 10 a.m. to get ready for Stampede Days, August 14th through the 16th here in Nashville. Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt football, will join us at 10:30 live from SEC Media Days in Tampa to talk about the Commodores. But coming up next, Julian Mininsohn from News 2 is going to join us. We'll have his co-worker, Corey Curtis, on for the full show tomorrow, but wanted to get Julian's thoughts on some Titans topics as we get closer and closer to training camp. We'll talk to Julian coming up next. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton with you on your Tuesday morning. And we are now thrilled to be joined on our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Julian Mininsohn from News 2, helping us talk some Titans. Julian, thanks for taking some time with us this morning.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I apologize if Corey's been giving you guys some trouble over the last couple of weeks as he's been filling in on Wednesdays. So now welcome to my world every single day in our sports office.
Yeah, I know. We can only handle 3 hours of Corey every single week, but you get him the whole week. So we wanted to talk to you before we get him on. Maybe we can get some inside information on how to handle him a little better.
I don't know if I have that. I've been with him for nearly 2 years, and I'm still trying to figure that out, but we'll take a stab at it.
Well, Julian, appreciate you taking some time. We're getting closer to Titans training camp, just over a week until veterans report. Before we get into that, though, last week, a lot of the conversation was around Cam Ward and his appearance on Quarterback, the Netflix show. I know that most of us who covered the team every single day, you got to see Cam Ward's personality, but was there anything that stood out to you from his appearance and some of the behind-the-scenes looks you got from his rookie year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, you see the demeanor, the leadership style, him talking trash, whether he's up or down, being unsatisfied even after some of the few victories that they had last year. I think that just reinforces the reason why the front office fell in love with him and took him with the number 1 pick. I thought something that was very interesting, however, and it happened, I think, multiple times within the first couple of episodes, is after maybe some unfavorable performances or performances that he didn't get the result he wanted or the team lost and he was kind of down in the dumps on the sideline, I thought it was interesting to see Bo Hardegree as the one kind of giving him pep talks. And maybe as it relates to this year's team with a new coaching staff, I think it reinforces the importance of the coaches that are going to be around Cam. You know, is it going to be Brian Daboll as the main guy in his ear this year as the offensive coordinator? Is it going to be Shea Tierney, the quarterback's coach this time around? I think if you ask me, outside of Robert Saleh and Brian Daboll, who are the obvious, which coaches are maybe the under-the-radar guys who are going to have the most impact on the team's success this year? I would argue that Shea Tierney is 1 or 2 on that list, just for the simple standpoint that he's going to be spending the most time with Cam. Cam was criticized a lot last year for whether it be some rookie mistakes, taking too many sacks, inopportune plays, footwork, all of that kind of stuff that you would typically see in a rookie. And so, Shea Tierney spending the most time with him, he's going to have a huge hand in that. And so I think it wasn't necessarily something that in this show that we saw that, maybe we didn't get to see before that we didn't already know. I think it just reinforced a lot of the important things that's going to ultimately lead to Cam Ward's development as we go from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point about the coaching staff, and you did get to see Bo Hardegree on the sideline talking Cam Ward through some of the early season struggles. I know it's early, and you haven't gotten to see a ton of Brian Daboll in action yet, but how do you see the dynamic between Cam Ward and Brian Daboll maybe being different from what we saw with Callahan or Hardegree working with Cam Ward last year?
Well, it's interesting because I've seen some, Titans fans on Twitter and the Twitter sphere, and I know that isn't the end all be all, but there are a lot of criticisms that maybe based in the quarterback show that a lot of things were, and maybe Cam was coddled a little bit more. And so I think when you see Brian Daboll at practice and how passionate he is, for lack of a better term, he is a kind of a hard A coach. And so I think Cam really resonates with that because Cam obviously wants to be great. I think Cam maybe it looks like he does his best when another guy is pushing him the same way that he would push others. And so I think that dynamic is, quite frankly, a match made in heaven. Basically what Robert Saleh said at the beginning since Brian Daboll was brought on to the staff. And so it's going to be different. And I think the biggest thing that overall is what you're going to see is just the overall experience that Brian Daboll brings to that quarterback room, and particularly Cam Ward. Last year, you had Brian Callahan, You had Nichols, two guys and a head coach and an offensive coordinator who didn't have any experience at the NFL level in those positions. And so now you're going to have somebody in Brian Dable who's developed the best quarterbacks in the league, and Josh Allen and Jackson Dart and Daniel Jones, and now he gets his turn with Cam Ward, who I only think it's going to be an improvement, I should say, from last year.
Talking with Julian Mininsohn from News 2, getting ready for Titans training camp. Julian, of course, Cam Ward is going to have the microscope on him. He's the quarterback. He's the former #1 pick. Are there any other players that you are most excited to see and are going to be paying close attention to when training camp opens up?
Yeah, there are a couple that I think this is kind of a crucial summer for a couple of guys. Number one on my list actually is J.C. Latham at right tackle. And I know the offensive line is big question marks. If you ask me, hey, Shea Tierney is maybe the most under the radar coach on this staff that has the biggest task with the importance to this team's success, I'd put Carmen Brasillo at maybe 1A, 1B with those guys. And just because of the job that he's got to do with an offensive line that, center is not solidified yet. You still got to figure out right guard too. But even more so, this organization, different regime, but they spent high draft capital on J.C. Latham at right tackle a few years ago. And I think even if you ask J.C., his performances over the last 2 seasons may have been more inconsistent than he would have liked. He was dealing with that nagging hip last year and some injury concerns. And so this is a very crucial kind of make or break summer for him, because you're going into kind of the back end of that rookie deal. And now it's going to be kind of time to prove whether you're going to be the long-term plan at that position or not. Like, are you going to be the pillar piece on that right side of that offensive line moving forward past your rookie contract? In the NFL, teams don't usually let good offensive linemen go. And so this next year or two is going to kind of be time to put up or shut up if you're J.C. Latham. So he's somebody that I'm looking forward to kind of seeing in his development, and maybe Carmen Brasillo can unlock things out of him as we go into year 3. A couple other guys, I would like to see more from Femi Oladejo, obviously, drafted as a second rounder last year. And when you draft somebody in the second round, you're expecting the consensus is you expect them to play and be a starter in this league right away. And he was definitely a little bit more of a project, also dealing with some injury concerns. And for somebody who I think reps are really, really important, we didn't get to see that due to an injury in OTAs. And so now it's kind of time for him as well to prove that, hey, I was worth that second round draft capital. So those are a couple of guys I'm looking for. Maybe less important is kind of the back end of that wide receiver room. We obviously know what Carnell Tate, Wandale Robinson, Alec Guyomanner, and Chin Dike, those, and Calvin Ridley, of course, those are kind of going to be the 5 guys. But what do you do with those last couple of wide receiver spots? KJ Osborne obviously really impressed the coaching staff this offseason so far. Bryce Oliver, I've been a big fan of his, and especially what he could bring on special teams. But if you ask me at the start of OTAs, does Xavier Restrepo have a chance to make this roster? And admittedly, I would have probably said no, but he had one of the more impressive OTA sessions out of anybody. And so now he's put himself in a position to potentially make the squad. So those are kind of the 3 areas, whether it be players or position groups, that I'll be looking at really closely as camp gets underway here soon.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think J.C. Latham, outside of Cam Ward, is probably the player under the most pressure heading into this season, and the offensive line as a whole. I think you feel really good about Peter Skoronski, and he's going to get paid probably in the next couple of weeks. Where do you stand on the center and right guard competition? I know it's tough to get a real gauge of what those guys are going to look like when they don't have the pads on, but it does seem like those positions are really up in the air as we head into training camp.
Yeah, 40% of your offensive line still needs to get figured out, and that's huge. And I think Austin Schlottman and Cordell Bolson seem like the leader in the clubhouses from what we've seen. I would like to see what some of the younger guys, such as Pat Coogan, Fernando Carmona, and even Jackson Slater, for that matter, throw him in there as young guys who are maybe trying to prove themselves to see how valuable that they can be in, the early parts of their careers. But I would say Schlotman and Bolson are probably the leaders in the clubhouse as it stands today, just off of experience alone. Look, like the number one thing an employer wants in any employee is to not worry about them. They could leave them alone. They could do their job. I don't have to coddle them or hold their hand. And right now on this offensive line, the only guy that I feel that way about is Peter Skoronski. So whether it's figuring out who's going to win center and right guard, or figuring out what can I unlock out of Dan Moore and J.C. Latham for this coming season, a lot needs to get figured out up front. And even more so than Cam Ward's development is protecting Cam Ward. And I think that's one of the top priorities for this team to figure out over the next couple of months.
Well, Julian, training camp will be here before we know it. Appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your insights, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Jake. Anytime.
Julian Mininsohn from News 2. And I can't believe we are just about a week away from training camp, but we are getting close. We are getting close, and lots of good stuff there from Julian. We'll react to what he had to say coming up next. And there's been the Cam Ward clip about Brian Daboll that's been circulating the last couple of days. We'll dive into that and what that dynamic could look like between Cam Ward and his new offensive coordinator. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 102.5 The Game.
us bringing in Dable in this 5-6 months that I've been with him, he's taught me so much,
Right.
that I wish I knew last year.
What has he taught you about basically, like, is it more schemes or is it more defense that he's been able to kind of teach you?
He's everything. I think the best thing about him that he's allows the quarterback to have his input on the offense, whether that's week to week or the whole playbook. And the first thing that, I had a great relationship with him during the pre-draft process last year when I was coming out. But the first thing, as soon as we hired him, it was, what do you want to run? Everything I wanted to do. He didn't talk about what he did with Josh, with Jackson last year, with other quarterbacks he has. It was, what did I want to do?
I love that.
And so he listened to the quarterback. He sees it from my perspective when the bullets are actually flying and where my mind goes to during the play and how I get through the read versus coverage. He's really helped me be more of a situational football player. And I think that's going to help me down the road because, I don't have to think big play on first and second down. Really, I just got to be prepared for one down. That's third down. I think, and to me, that's how he explained. That's where quarterback gets played on third down, whether it's third and short, medium, or long. You got to come with it, and then you got to be good in 2-minute drill and red zone. And if you do those three things right as a quarterback, you end up being one of the best in the league.
That was Cam Ward at Fanatics Fest over the weekend, talking about his relationship with new offensive coordinator Brian Daboll. Really interesting end to that clip there with the note on being more of a situational football player. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Big thanks to Julian Mininsohn for joining us in the last segment talking Titans. I thought that was a good way of putting it from Cam Ward about what it takes to be a high-level quarterback in this league. Now, there are big plays that happen on first and second down. You can make an X play. You get to second and short. You can take play action shots. But I thought that's a good way to frame what's important for a young quarterback and that you don't have to be a hero on every single play. Where you make your money is third down, red zone, and in the 2-minute. And I think Cam Ward, that maybe that clicks something for him because I think there were times last year where he struggled to just live to see the next play. It's like it would be 2nd and 8 and he would take a sack, or it would be 2nd and 8 and he would try and force something. And it's like, if you could just get to 3rd and 8, or maybe you can, instead of when you get outside the pocket, only looking to throw, go pick up 3 yards with your legs and get yourself to 3rd and manageable. And I think if Brian Daboll can figure that out and get him to a spot where he's getting the offense into realistic positions to move the football, get into the red zone, then maybe Cam Ward can take a big step forward, because third down was a serious problem for the Titans last year. They were 31st in third down conversion rate last season. They were 0.1 of a percentage point away from being dead last in the league. So this is that is a really important thing for Brian Daboll to be imparting on his young quarterback. Is you don't have to go win the game on first and second down. You have to just give yourself a chance on third down to go make a play.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is they were dead last in third down. I mean, the 1/10 of a percentage point, I consider that dead last personally.
Right,
but
they might as well have been dead last.
They might as well have been dead last. I mean, to me, it felt like the biggest issue with Cam last year is, like you said, for those plays where he would, be trying to make a play. I feel like a lot of the sacks obviously were not his fault because the O-line was just terrible, but a lot of times he did take some unnecessary sacks, like, to me, which is expected of a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Though.
And we saw it got better throughout the year.
Right.
Now, part of that was, I think, the offensive line started to gel a little bit more towards the back end of the season. But I think also he stopped holding on to the ball and feeling like he had to make a play on every single down. And with Brian Daboll, Julian made a good point about Bo Hardigree being the guy on the sideline that was kind of talking Cam Ward through those early season struggles. I don't know who that's going to be this year that's going to be the main voice. I would assume it's going to be Brian Daboll, but I believe in Daboll to be able to get through to a young quarterback more than Brian Callahan or Bo Hardigree. I know he was the play caller for most of the year last year. He didn't have a ton of experience. He was the offensive coordinator for the Raiders for a couple of half a season, I want to say. He was an interim guy. Yeah. But with Brian Callahan, Yes, he worked with Joe Burrow as a young quarterback, but he wasn't the main guy in Joe Burrow's year. That was Zach Taylor. You look back at his time, like he worked with Peyton Manning, but that was Peyton Manning at the end of his career with the Broncos, and he worked with Matthew Stafford. I don't know if he really knew how to get through to the young quarterback who was going through some struggles that maybe he didn't quite understand. With Brian Daboll, we bring up Josh Allen all the time. And I understand it's not fair because Josh Allen, as voted on by people in the NFL, is the best quarterback in the league right now. He's an MVP, and he's more of a unicorn, right? Like, you don't see a lot of guys go from what he was, which was an inaccurate quarterback whose completion percentage from Wyoming and into his first season and a half in the NFL was in the low to mid 50s. And he figured it out. That doesn't happen to everybody, and I don't think you can expect that to happen for Cam Ward. But having the guy who was Josh Allen's voice in his ear and was the guy who was working him through some of those early season struggles and early career struggles, I think that's going to be important for Cam Ward because he knows how to get through to these guys who maybe are trying to hunt the deep shot too much. They want to play hero ball. They feel like they can make every single play. And hearing that Brian Daboll is saying, hey, first and second down, just live. Get yourself to third down with a chance to go convert, then go make your money. I think that's important to hear from Brian Daboll when talking to Cam Ward.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for Cam, and with looking at it from Cam's perspective, if you're Cam and you see that, like you see what he did with Josh Allen, you just got to think to yourself, well, this is a perfect reason for me to listen to this guy because there's a proven track record behind Daboll, unlike the other guys we were talking about. I mean, like you said, a little bit of Burrow, just a tad bit, and a little bit of Peyton, but it was at the end of Peyton. But yeah, I think it gives Cam something to look at. It's like proven. Daboll has proven what he can do with a quarterback that is inaccurate, and obviously Cam's struggled with the accuracy issues during OTAs, but I don't really think that's going to stick. I mean, it's OTAs. He was obviously trying new stuff. Stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean, you saw improvement from OTAs to mini camp, and now we've seen he's been working out down in Miami with some of his wide receivers and into training camp, where if the microscope was on him at OTAs, it's going to be 10 times during training camp where you're getting to see him practice 2, 3, 4 times a week and getting into preseason games. So there's going to be scrutiny if he's struggling with his accuracy. But with Brian Daboll, I do think that having that experience with Josh Allen, that doesn't mean he's going to be able to do the same thing, but I think he knows how to get through to quarterbacks who are struggling with that specific issue of maybe not being the most accurate quarterback. Again, Josh Allen, his completion percentage at Wyoming was like 52%. That was the one thing with Josh Allen was he's big, he's strong, he's fast, but he's not accurate. And Brian Daboll was able to figure that out. Doesn't mean he can do the same thing for Cam Ward, but I feel much more confident in him being able to get some level of improvement of Cam Ward in terms of the mechanics and the accuracy more than Brian Callahan and Bo Harder did last year.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think that's one of the main things I like about this Cam Ward and Brian Daboll relationship is that there was already a prior relationship prior to Daboll even taking the job. We heard all about last year. Daboll loved Cam Ward coming out of the draft before they ended up having to take Jackson Dart because the Titans didn't trade out of the pick. But I love that because it's not like they're just completely starting fresh. And I mean, I think that's probably the main reason Daboll took the job, if we're being honest.
Yeah. And it's one thing like we talked about when Brian Callahan got hired that he said Will Levis was a big reason why he took the job. And there was the big article about why he thought Will Levis could be a star quarterback in the league. It's really easy to say that when you already have the job. It's like, you're not going to come out and say, yeah, Will Levis is okay, we'll see how it works out. Like, you're going to come in and you're going to support your quarterback. It is nice to know, like, it was well documented that Brian Daboll and the Giants wanted to trade up for Cam Ward last year. Like, it was public information. There's a call of Joe Shane making one last try while the Titans were on the clock to go get Cam Ward. So it's not like when Brian Callahan took the job and is raving about Will Levis, when it's like, well, of course you're saying that, you're his new head coach. With Brian Daboll, you at least know that that was how he felt before becoming or even thinking about coaching Cam Ward with the Titans this year.
Feels a lot less forced and a lot less coach speak,
right?
I guess.
Right. Because in Brian Daboll's mind, once Cam Ward goes off the board, I don't think there was ever a thought that he was, a year down the road, I'm going to be coaching Cam Ward. He doesn't think he's getting fired. So I do think that at least makes you feel like it's a little more genuine from Brian Daboll that he wants to work with Cam Ward. We'll get into some of the other parts of that comment from Cam Ward coming up next about Cam Ward's input on the playbook and what he wants to run, because I know that was a big blowback from quarterback last week of him calling his own play on 3rd and long against the Broncos that ended up costing the Titans points. What would that look like with Cam Ward and Brian Daboll? And what's kind of the dividing line there of the quarterback being in charge of the offense versus taking the quarterback's input on what he feels comfortable running? We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. All of our football offseason coverage on 1025 The Game is presented by Tennessee Brewworks. Raise a glass with Tennessee Brewworks and Parman Tractor and Equipment, providing totally outrageous customer service. Visit parmantractor.com. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, finishing up the first hour on this Tuesday. Coming up at 10, we will be joined live in studio by Daylom Swearingen, former PBR world champion, as we get ready for Nashville Stampede Days coming up August 14th through the 16th at Bridgestone Arena. Excited to talk with Daylom. I've watched a little bit of like pro bull riding, and like it'll be on in a bar or something, and it always catches my attention. The team aspect of it is something I'm really excited to get his thoughts on. Like, how does the scoring work? And
Yeah.
like, what makes it different from just the individual competition? So excited to have Daylom on. That's coming up at 10 a.m. But we were talking Titans here to start off the show, and just the dynamic between Brian Daboll and Cam Ward. I think in terms of improvements around Cam Ward, and I like Carnell Tate. I do. And I think long-term, Carnell Tate may actually end up being the most important piece the Titans added this offseason. But for year 2 specifically with Cam Ward, just the improvement that he needs to show this year, the 2 pieces that I think are going to help him the most are Brian Daboll and Wan'Dale Robinson. And especially with Wan'Dale having played in this Brian Daboll system last year, he's got the experience. He knows what the terminology is going to look like. He can help with Cam Ward in that aspect of it. And you look back at Cam Ward's college career, whether it was at Washington State or at Miami, his favorite receivers were the slot receivers. They were the small, shifty guys who could get open quickly in small areas of space. That's what Wan'Dale Robinson is. And I really do think that bringing in Brian Daboll, experienced quarterback developer who has shown he can get through to young quarterbacks who like to be gunslingers, and getting him a receiver that fits his typical target that he liked in college, I think that's going to play a huge role for Cam Ward in 2026.
Yeah, and I mean, Wan'Dale, I think it's fair to say that Carnell Tate probably has a higher ceiling than Wan'Dale Robinson
100%.
overall, but Wan'Dale's obviously an experienced receiver in this league now, and I think I can say it's probably going to be a more reliable target in 2026 than Carnell, just because, I mean, it's rookie season. You never know what you're going to get, you know?
I just think with Carnell Tate, yes. Like if I said for the next 5 years of Cam Ward's development, if he gets that far, Carnell Tate probably going to be the most important piece, because you're getting him a possible bona fide number 1 wide receiver. But for this year, where you need Cam Ward to just take some steps forward and make the easy plays, and we talked about the third down conversion rate, 31st in the league last year, Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be huge for that. When it's 3rd and 6, he can get you 7 yards. And that was where I felt like Cam Ward lacked last year. He had some of the big flashy plays, and I think you saw improvement in avoiding turnovers and avoiding sacks down the stretch. There was improvement there. But sustaining drives was a big issue. And I think Carnell Tate's going to be bigger for the X plays. And yeah, he can be a third down receiver and a red zone threat. But on 3rd and 5, you needed somebody that could be Cam Ward's go-to guy to move the chains. And I think that's exactly what Wan'Dale Robinson's going to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, we brought up that stat about the third down conversion rate. I would love to see where the Titans ranked in how many 3-and-outs they had. Like,
let's see if I can find that.
Where did they rank? Like, how bad was it? Because it felt like if the Titans did not get in the red zone, because like I think we went over the stats about the red zone stats. Like, they really weren't that. I can't remember if we went over this or not yet. I'm sorry, but they really were not terrible in the red zone. But the problem was the drives just stalled out, and it was I felt like every other drive was a 3-and-out last year.
Yeah, I'm looking there. When I look it up, like the Stat Muse page pops up, but it doesn't actually tell me anything. But yeah, the Titans, they converted third downs at 32% last year. Like, that's just, it's not good. It's not good. And with Wan'Dale Robinson, I think that's helpful. And with Brian Daboll, the clip that we played of Cam Ward talking about his relationship with Daboll, I thought the end of it was the most important part, where basically Brian Daboll has told him, if you just keep the ship afloat in 1st and 2nd down, you're going to make your money on 3rd down, red zone, and then the 2-minute drill. That's where great quarterbacks are made, by making plays in those situations. And Cam Ward actually was pretty good in the red zone last year. He completed 70% of his passes, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception in the red zone last year. And the Titans were 13th in red zone scoring percentage. So he was pretty good in the red zone. It was 3rd down that was the issue. But the first part of the clip from Cam Ward talking about Brian Daboll talked about Brian Daboll trying to get input from Cam Ward when it comes to what he wants to run, the kind of concepts that he feels comfortable with. And I've seen some people saying, why is the young quarterback getting this much input? Brian Daboll just needs to run the offense he wants to run. And I think there's a line there where the offensive coordinator needs to build his offense around the players that he has, not the players that he wishes he has. And I think that's where Brian Callahan got in trouble the last couple of years, was he wanted to run the system that had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on it and Joe Burrow, but he didn't have those players. Will Levis and Cam Ward are very different players from Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is not your typical gunslinger. Now, he will take some risks, but he's more of just I'm going to go and I'm going to execute the hell out of you. And I'm going to make the right throws. They're going to be accurate, and we're going to move the football down the field. Cam Ward and Will Levis were more of your big arm gunslinger guys. And Brian Callahan didn't format his offense to fit his young quarterbacks and the weapons he had around them. I think Brian Daboll is going to do a good job of making the offense fit the personnel that he has. But that doesn't mean that Cam Ward is going to be able to walk up and say, this is the play I want to run, and Brian Daboll is just going to say, okay. I think that's the difference. Brian Callahan, I think, deferred to his young quarterback. I think Brian Daboll is going to take input from his young quarterback. But when you get into those big moments and Cam Ward says, this is the play I want to run, I don't think Brian Daboll is just going to say, yeah, whatever you want. I think he's going to say, hey, I get why you want to run that, but this is what's best for our team right now. I think the personality difference is going to be a big deal between Daboll and Callahan.
Which I think that's a very good thing. I mean, it's all just part of the maturing of Cam as a young quarterback, of just learning, oh, here's why we can't do that in that situation. I mean,
right.
I know it's a little bit of a different example. I mean, you saw it in the Netflix documentary. Unfortunately, it was while Callahan was still in the office, but he was like, oh, you see what happened here when he threw the pick six in Indianapolis? Yeah. He was like, I think what can't he's pain. Yeah.
Yeah. Pain.
Yeah. I was like, was it the first play of the game? The first drive?
It was the first drive. It was the first third down of the game.
That's right.
So yeah.
Funny. We're on the subject.
Right. There we go. Bad on third downs. Funny how that works. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, hard to be bad in the red zone if it's always out of sight. That is true. The Titans did not make many trips to the red zone last year.
That's a very good point.
But when they did, they were above average across the NFL. So I'm really excited to see what the dynamic looks like between Daboll and Ward once training camp begins. And you just want to see the improvement as you gear up for the season. We said back a month and a half ago or a month ago during OTAs, it's June. Let's not freak out. Well, pretty much by the time the Titans start practicing, it's going to be August, and it's going to be time to start ramping up. That doesn't mean Cam Ward has to be perfect. There are going to be struggles. There are going to be bumps in the road. It's a new system with a lot of new pieces. It's not going to be perfect. But you don't want to be talking about him staying stagnant, and you don't want to say anything about him regressing and taking steps back. Throughout training camp and throughout preseason, you want to see him look more comfortable, play faster. That was the big thing that I took from minicamp, was most of the reports, whether it was TD or Paul Kuharsky or whoever was out there, it was Cam Ward looked more comfortable. He was playing faster out there. You just want to see improvement throughout training camp and throughout the preseason so that he is in a good spot when week 1 against the Jets rolls around. It's not going to be perfect. Again, there are going to be days, I'm sure, where we get people calling in and texting in saying Cam's horrible, but I think there's also going to be moments and days where Cam Ward puts on a show out there. It's just going to be a process for him getting accustomed to this new system, his new weapons, and hopefully once the live bullets start flying, he is playing at his best and playing fastest. You're just going to have to see how that dynamic with Brian Daboll and his new weapons and his new wide receivers forms throughout training camp coming up next month.
I think that's the biggest key as a fan base. The Titans fan base just needs to not overreact. Just have patience. Like you said, brand new system. I mean, he's been learning it for a few months now, but still, mistakes are going to happen. He's not a rookie anymore, but I mean, it's his second year. You got to have patience. The elite quarterbacks are not made in overnight.
Yep.
You know, like it's going to take some time.
It's almost go time for Cam Ward in year 2, and coming off a disappointing rookie season where he did show improvement down the stretch. You really would like to see him take that second year step that we've seen from previous quarterbacks. Now, it doesn't have to be as big as Drake May, but you do usually see that with franchise quarterbacks, that from year 1 to year 2, there is a large improvement You'd like to see that from Cam Ward heading into 2026, especially with the additions they've made around him on the coaching staff and at the wide receiver position. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at 1025 The Game for live shows and exclusive content. Hour number 1 in the books. Coming up next, we'll be joined live in studio by Daylom Swearingen, former PBR world champion. Excited to talk to him as Stampede Days coming up at Bridgestone Arena in mid-August. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game, second hour on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And we start off hour number 2, joined in studio by Daylom, Swearingen, former PBR world champion, as we get ready for Stampede Days here in Nashville coming up August 14th through the 16th. Daylom, thanks so much for taking some time. Excited to have you in.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, I did see that you're coming off an injury. How exciting is it for you to be close to returning on the mend and getting ready for Stampede Days here in Nashville in just a couple of weeks?
Oh, yeah. Anytime we come to Nashville, Stampede Days is one of my favorite events to look forward to all year. But I look forward to getting back into the arena, and little by little, I'll get there.
Well, I always wonder, what does preparation look like for these events for you guys? Because a lot of other sports, you can map out what practice is going to look like. But for you guys, with the danger involved in this sport, what does preparation look like as you guys gear up for these events?
Oh, yeah. Preparation's always different because you don't know what that week before, you don't know the injuries that you're kind of sustained.
Right.
And so you kind of got to work through that to be get your body feeling as good as you can, but still working out and still doing those things to better you for next week.
I think when people think about pro bull riding, a lot of it is individual. And of course, there are individual events, but you're part of a team, the Nashville Stampede. You're going to take on 3 other teams here in Nashville that weekend. What makes team bull riding so exciting and makes it so fun for fans to come out and see?
I think the team aspect is huge. There's 10 teams total, and we get to have teams supporting us. At the end of the day, our job's still the same. We have to climb on and do the bull. No one can really help us do that.
Right.
But it's pretty entertaining. The fans get to cheer for a team, a region, a person, whatever it may be. But just more fans are kind of used to the fan cheering for a team. And so that's what kind of makes bull riding a little bit more easier to get into, I guess, for newer fans.
Is there like camaraderie between you and your teammates? Again, you're going out there individually and competing, but how do you guys support each other as you guys go through these events?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Justin McBride is our coach.
Yeah.
He really brings us together. We get on bulls together throughout the week, practice together, like we're a family at the end of the day. Like, bull riding's always been a sport where everybody kind of helps everybody, but now it's just on steroids because you got your teammates behind there cheering for you. And now we still don't get, we still have to do good to get paid and stuff. So that's huge for us because now we got to feed other families and stuff too.
Right.
So that's huge for bull riders.
Well, you are a former world champion of PBR back in 2022. What do you remember about that experience, that run that allowed you to take home the golden buckle?
Oh yeah, it was a long, grueling season that year. Full of ups and downs, but I just tried to keep it pretty steady, and it's pretty cool that I won the world championship that year, and so did the Nashville Stampede.
Yeah.
And now we're looking to do it again.
I love it. And we'll be rooting you on. What I want to learn more about you. What was your journey like to get into bull riding? What got you into this sport? Because I'm sure it's something that goes through your childhood that you have to start early on. What allowed you to become such a great bull rider in your career?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I actually grew up in upstate New York.
Wow.
So not a lot of bull riding from there, but there's a lot more than people think of outside of New York City. But I started riding sheep when I was like 4 and just kept working my way up. But this is just the Western industry has always been in my life and my blood. And it's a lifestyle that kind of chose me, and I'm very blessed and thankful for that.
How do you work your way up from sheep to bulls? Is that just as you grow? Do you start with sheep and then just keep getting bigger until you hit the big time?
Yeah, you start with sheep, and then you go to calves, then you go to steers, and they have junior bull riding. There's a lot of youth programs out there that have miniature bulls too. There's lots of places that you can go to find the right level for you.
That's awesome.
if you ever want to try one, maybe not a little better than the mechanical bull, I think we can make it happen.
I was gonna say I've done the mechanical bull. Maybe sheep's too big or too small for me at this point. But I always wonder too: is there an art to what happens after you fall off the bull? Because I know the biggest thing is you're trying to stay on as long as you can. But is there an art to trying to avoid injury and just get out of the way of the bull as fast as possible?
Yeah, so our goal is to stay on their backs for 8 seconds. So after that 8 seconds, we don't get paid anything for overtime, so we're trying to get off. There's normally 3 bullfighters out there that kind of protect us.
Okay.
And so we try to get off as safe as we can, kind of get thrown away from the bull just a little bit so we have a little bit more time.
Right.
And then those 3 bullfighters, the protectors, they put their life on the line and they distract the bull while we can run away to safety. And they're out there keeping his attention.
I love that. 8 seconds, and then you just got to get off as safely as possible.
Oh, yeah.
For somebody who maybe hasn't been out to one of these events before and is interested in coming out to Stampede Days, what would your message be to them about why pro bull riding is such a great event to come out to?
I think it's the last sport that's man versus beast.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, once you climb in that buck and shoot, there's no whistle, there's no timer, there's no button that's going to stop it. It's going to play out however God wants it to. So it's like a good bull ride, a great wreck. There's so many options that could happen in those 15 seconds that bull is out in the arena.
Yeah.
And they're all exciting, and it's just a pretty cool family event. We say a prayer before we start, sing the national anthem. It's just really home base, I guess.
Well, we're all excited. Again, Bridgestone Arena, August 14th, 15th, 16th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can get your PBR tickets now at Ticketmaster.com for Stampede Days. 3 days with 10 teams there. You guys will take on 3 of them. I'm excited. I think this is a great event to come to Nashville. It's a perfect time too, right towards the end of summer. So we're excited, and thanks so much for coming in.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully we see y'all there to cheer the Nashville Stampede on to a victory that weekend.
Yes. Nashville Stampede Days, August 14th through the 16th. Daylom Swearingen joining us. Thanks so much for taking some time. We will take a quick break. We will react to what Daylom had to say. We'll give you more information about Stampede Days as well on the other side. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Sugarland Space Cowboys. First pitch is at 7:05 p.m., and you can catch all the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure, Maple Street Biscuit Company, and Social Cantina. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton with you. Big thanks to Daylom Swearingen from PBR joining us in the last segment. Pro Bull Riding coming to Nashville August 14th through the 16th. You can get tickets at Ticketmaster.com. I'm excited. I mean, I have not been to one of these events. I've always thought it was something cool to go watch. I'm sure in person it's even better than it is on TV to just feel the energy. But God, I can't imagine doing it, right? Like the danger that goes into getting on a bull like that.
It's not all just inflatable, just cushion all around you like it is the bar that you were talking about.
Right.
Yeah, it's like real life risks.
I've done the mechanical bull, and it's like the worst thing that happened to me was like my foot went through the inflatable and hit a wall or something like that, and that was it. Like that's the worst that can happen there. These guys, I mean, they're putting their life on the line every single time they go out and do these rides. And Daylom telling us 8 seconds, and then your goal is just to get out of the ring as fast as possible. I love that he said that you grow up, you start by riding sheep. I didn't know that was a thing.
I definitely did not know that was a thing either. That was probably my biggest takeaway from that entire interview.
Me
wow.
too.
And I'm like trying to imagine riding a sheep as if it's like, do the sheep try to buck him too? I'm like, I don't know.
Right, because like when you think of a bull, you think of it being like violent and it's trying to buck you off of it. Like I think of a sheep and I'm just like, do they really care, or can you just ride it around like a horse or like a little mini horse?
I could see a sheep getting annoyed, but I don't know if a sheep would have the strength to buck you off of it like a bull would.
Right, but I guess this is when he was young, so maybe he's like 6 or 7 years old or something like that. But man, I agree with you. That was the biggest like thing I learned was that's how you start getting into bull riding is by riding sheep as a kid.
It's pretty incredible. I'm definitely going to try to go if it fits into my schedule. It's would you say 15th through the?
It's 14th through the 16th.
14th through 16th.
Yep, at Bridgestone Arena. So full weekend of PBR, and it being team bull riding, because that's like one of the sports I would assume it's like golf, where it's like it's not a team event. It's just every man for themselves. You're trying to do the best that you can. Adding a team element to it, I think does make it fun because the fans can have an allegiance to the Nashville Stampede. And even though they're only here for a couple of days, they go travel other places and compete in these team events. So I thought that was interesting as well, that it's like, hey, it's not just every man for themselves. You've got 7 guys who are all competing as part of the same squad.
I feel like I could see it working better in a sport like this other than golf, because as we've seen in golf before, Liv tried it. It doesn't really work in golf. Like they've done all they can. But I can definitely see it working in bull riding because it's right. Even though it is individualized, I mean, I don't completely understand how the scoring works in bull riding, but I feel like it's a little bit easier to make it a team atmosphere there. And it's like, obviously it's still individualized, but I don't feel like it is as much as something like golf is, where every other week of the year you're on your own.
Right. That is true. So great to have Daylom Swearingen in studio, former PBR world champion, and the Nashville Stampede getting ready for Stampede Days coming up in just a few weeks, August 14th through the 16th. Again, you can get tickets at Ticketmaster.com. I did want to highlight this. Matthew in Nashville texted in and said, question for hour number 2. Did y'all see the story from The Athletic saying ESPN preparing to potentially let go of Carl Ravitch, Tom Pelissero, Charles Davis, and Stefania Bell? Baseball on ESPN won't be the same if Carl isn't there. Yeah, I've seen there's been a lot. Like the Ryan Clark story was really strange yesterday.
Wild. Well, Charles Davis works for ESPN. I did not realize that.
Right, because all the NFL Network guys are now under ESPN. So It's like Tom Pelissero was NFL Network, but now because ESPN acquired them, he's an ESPN employee.
It's technically an ESPN layoff because they own. Okay.
Right. So no, I mean, some of the names I know I saw a headline, which was like ESPN preparing for layoffs, but it's like, you never expected to be some of the people who were like Carl Ravitch, love him or hate him. He's kind of been the voice of our childhood when it comes to baseball on ESPN. Like he's been the guy who's done the MLB. He's done the College World Series. So that was crazy to see. And again, the Ryan Clark story yesterday was very strange. Of like mid NFL Live they let him know that he was being laid off, and like they posted a clip of him talking about the Cowboys potentially winning the Super Bowl after he had been laid off. It was all just really weird.
Don't get any ideas, Chase. Please don't fire any of us mid-show while we're on air.
Well, this is going to be our last segment. We're
Yeah.
going to come in. There's going to be completely new people in here.
Just nobody's in here. They just, sorry guys, last segment. Yeah.
Oops.
That would, well, that's the only thing I could compare it to. Like, imagine a show here that happened.
Right.
Like,
No, I mean, it's
can't.
true. It's just like, imagine if like you're in here with Corey or something. It's like, I come back and, oh, it's just Corey. Where'd Jake go? So no, that was a crazy story yesterday. And, thinking of all these people that we grew up watching again, Cam Newton just laid off by ESPN as well.
I didn't even know he was just technically under ESPN contract.
I guess he is. But man, like it's tough when these days come down, because it's like voices and faces that you grew up seeing on SportsCenter and all over ESPN programming who don't work there anymore.
No disrespect to Ramon Foster, but I think I would have rather seen Charles Davis as the new Titans radio analyst than him.
Yeah.
Because he already does the preseason games for the Titans, right?
Right. But I guess you'd run into the same blowback of Charles Davis. Yeah, he's a Vol, same as Ramon Foster, but he's not a Titan.
Yeah, I guess with Ramon, it's just different since he played for the Steelers, like right in the heat of like when the Titans and Steelers hated each other the most, I mean, it's with Ramon. I don't even know who Charles Davis played for in the NFL. I couldn't name one team he played for. I don't think of Charles Davis as an NFL player, even though obviously he's an NFL analyst, if that makes sense.
Yeah, let's see. Charles Davis played for the Cowboys as a practice squad member, and that was it.
So I think I do understand. I would have rather had a Titan regardless, though.
Right.
I do agree.
No, yeah, I'm with you that I think there were other options. I think Ramon's going to do a good job, right?
Oh, yeah,
like he was handpicked by Mike Keith, and he covers the Titans every single day in this market. But like, yeah, I understand the blowback too of Keith Bullock or somebody who Titans fans associate with their team may have been better. But anyway, ESPN just some announcements this morning, just shocking. I think Carl Ravitch is probably the name that surprises you the most. I think Tom Pelissero is also kind of shocking too. Like he's up there with Rappaport and Schefter, but I guess it's like, do they have just a logjam of insiders now over there with the merger? Because it's like, you've got Schefter, you've got Rappaport, you've got Garofolo, you've got, I'm blanking on they've got like 8 of them.
They've got so many. It's hard to remember.
It's kind of the
one thing I would say to him, I'm assuming the Athletic is hiring. They do have an open position.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah. If you know, you know.
Brett in Lebanon makes a good point of Charles Davis he works for CBS too. Like he does work with the NFL Network, but like he does Big Ten games on CBS.
He probably does an NFL game every week, I guess, probably too. And obviously, you're not going to give that up to go do.
He's been Ian Eagle's broadcast partner, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's right.
Like every single year. So
I think it might have been JJ last year, but I think Charles was on CBS or Fox, one of the two, and was doing a game pretty much every week still.
You know what it is, Brett in Lebanon? I just opened his text. He's replacing Gary Danielson as like the number one college analyst for CBS. I forgot
Gary retired. So it'll be Brad and Charles now.
Yeah. So that makes more sense. That honestly, that might just be kind of a gotcha headline of, oh, he's being laid off at NFL Network. Like, was that really his main job anyway? Yeah. Or was that just something he did on the side? But yeah, that was surprising this morning, especially the Carl Ravitch news. We're going to get into SEC Media Days here. They are continuing out there in Tampa. We'll be joined in a little under 10 minutes by Andrew Allegretta, the voice of Vanderbilt football, live from Tampa to talk about Vandy, who takes the podium in just a couple of hours here. I think Vanderbilt, this is a really, really interesting season for them because expectations, I think, are really fluid for Vanderbilt. You're coming off the first 10-win season in program history. You won 6 SEC games for the first time in program history last year, which I think buys you some time to build up the foundation of this. You've gotten more even in the trenches, right? Like your offensive line, your defensive line are getting to the point where you can be competitive with the top teams in the SEC. And you had the quarterback the last 2 years. You think Jared Curtis is going to end up being that guy. But in terms of expectations for this year, I really just don't know what Vandy fans are looking for this year. I don't think it's a concrete win number. Concrete. to no pun intended with the announcement this morning, by the way.
Oh, yes, that was good.
I don't know if you're looking for a concrete win number, but I think you're looking for just a team that shows that it still belongs even beyond Diego Pavia.
Yeah, it's weird for me because, like, I don't think Vandy fans are expecting national championship contention or anything crazy like that. But I also think most of them probably disappointed if they don't at least make a bowl game, right?
I would agree with that. I think the saying that I always come back to when talking about Vandy this year is progress isn't always linear, right? Like, you took a huge step last year to go from, you went from 2-10 to 7-6 to 10-3 in 3 years. That's huge. Just because you don't win 10 games again this year doesn't mean you're taking a step backwards necessarily. It's just building up that next wave to try and find a window. And I think, yes, bowl game probably would be the expectation for me. If I think you would like to win 6 games, and we'll go through their schedule coming up a little bit later on. But I do think that, like, a 7-win season where Jared Curtis looks like he fits the bill of what you expected, especially toward the end of the season. I mean, we had the same conversation about Tennessee yesterday with Faison Brandon. A 7-5 year for Vanderbilt where Jared Curtis looks the part, I think is a massive win for the Commodores this year.
I think if you just replicate, there we go. Hard word to say sometimes, I guess. If you just replicate the 2024 season, but just replace Diego Pavia with Jared Curtis, I think that'd be a great year for Vanderbilt this year.
Yeah. And then you head into 2027 with momentum and feeling like you've got your guy under center, behind center, who can take you back to being a college football playoff contender, even if that doesn't mean they're in the conversation this year, whether it's Curtis or whether it's Berlowitz or a mix of both. Like, I do think this is a building year for Vanderbilt this season to get back to where they were last year. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 1025, the game has updates each day during SEC Media Days, and coverage is brought to you by Shane Company, hand-set engagement rings, carefully crafted to last a lifetime, Tri-State Water Power and Air, and the Music City kickoff game featuring Ole Miss taking on Louisville September 6th at Nissan Stadium. Get your tickets today at NashvilleSports.com. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Andrew Allegretta. We'll talk some Vandy football as the Commodores take center stage at SEC Media Days today. We'll get Andrew's thoughts on some of the players joining Clark Lee down there and what the expectations should be for Vandy in 2026. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 1025 the game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton with you. Vanderbilt about to take center stage at SEC Media Days in Tampa. To help us talk about the Doors, we go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are joined by the voice of Vanderbilt football, Andrew Allegretta. Andrew, always a pleasure having you on. How is beautiful Tampa?
Rainy. How are you?
See, you go down to Florida, you expect to get better weather, right?
You would hope so. And then we had a lot of trouble getting down yesterday because of some thunderstorms.
Gotcha.
And then I was told the team plane actually had to do a couple of laps before they could land too. We are thankful to be here. The SEC has done a fantastic job. The weather was great last night once the rain kind of tapered off. So we appreciate being here, and it's certainly always good to just get the football season going.
Yes, and great news yesterday. No travel next year. It'll be right here in Nashville.
Right.
So it's beautiful. Andrew, last year, there was a lot of buzz around Vandy coming off a 7-win season, Diego Pavia heading into his second year, and they backed it up with 10 wins. What's kind of the feel right now as you guys get ready to kick off a new season, trying to build off all the success last year?
I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of conversation about that exact question, right? I think that's probably going to be one of the two biggest questions that Clark and the player get throughout the course of today. It's going to be, how do you guys build on it without Diego Pavia? What's the quarterback situation going to be like? I think, Jake, one of the things that I'm kind of curious to see, especially from some of the more national media type, is kind of how do they approach that question? Like, is it going to be the presumption of future success, or is it going to be kind of with heavy tones of skepticism? So we'll see. That will be really interesting for, I think, at least me to follow.
No, I agree. And I think the quarterback question is obviously going to be a big focal point today for Clark Lee. I would assume that he's probably going to hold his cards very close to his chest when it comes to who might be the starter heading into fall camp as Blaise Berlowitz and Jared Curtis compete.
I mean, I would think so for sure. I think, one of the things that kind of gets lost, at least I think, in the conversation, is the impact of the guys on the locker room. I mean, even if you've got a feel as a coach and the media wants to talk about things and fans want to talk about things, the locker room has to buy in to whoever the guy is going to be. And that is only done on the practice field. Now they've been out there practicing. They're going to continue obviously doing that throughout the course of fall camp. So I don't think you can just remove yourself from what it means to be inside the locker room and for guys to truly believe and buy and like, this is our leader. This is the guy that's going to do it for us. So I do sometimes feel like that piece of it gets a little bit lost in translation and more of the larger 30,000 foot fan and media narratives, which is not to say that like those conversations aren't real. Like this decision is really big.
Yep.
You've got somebody that has been in the system for a while in Blaise Berlowitz. You obviously have the highest rated recruit that Vanderbilt ever has in Jared Curtis. So, to some extent, you've got to make sure that all of that, despite the noise, plays out properly on the practice field.
Well, no matter who the quarterback is going to be, two of the guys who will likely be their best friend this year are with you down in Tampa with Junior Sherrill and Cedric Alexander. How have you seen them step up as now the veterans on that offensive side of the ball, and how valuable can they be for this offense now in the post-Diego Pavia, Eli Stowers era?
I mean, I think they're huge. I think one of the things that's really intriguing to me about this offense is guys like Junior, is guys like Cedric Alexander, is guys like MK Young in the running back field, is a guy like Cole Spence, who kind of not exactly plays Eli's position at tight end, but, adjacent there. I think that's what's so compelling. Whether or not it's Jared Curtis or Blaise Berlowitz, you have a ton of talent and you do have a ton of veterans that can kind of ease that transition for the new guy, whether it's Blaise or Jared, or you go down the list with Jack Elliott or whoever, it's going to be a new quarterback and they're going to need assistance. The quarterback's the leader, but like you still need to hand to somebody. Somebody's got to block. Somebody's got to catch. And I think Tim Beck has a lot of options when it comes to that sort of stuff. And I think that's more than anything, I think, which gives me a lot of optimism about the offense, which gives me a lot of excitement about 2026. It's like, Cedric Alexander is one of the most underrated running backs in the entire country and Southeastern Conference. To me, there's not many guys that do three phases of the running back position quite like Cedric. He can catch the football. Obviously, he can run it. He's got 21 career rushing touchdowns, which is third most in Vanderbilt football history, tied with Keyshawn Vaughn. And he can block. Like, you want to go out there and see who's on the field on third down when you need a pass blocker. Cedric Alexander is out there a bunch. So they are huge elements of this offense. And to some extent, Junior's got to even grow some, right? Eli's not there. Trey Richardson moves on. Junior's a very, very talented wide receiver, but he's going to have more options, more opportunities this year too.
And you mentioned Tim Beck, who obviously deserves a whole lot of credit for the offense's success over the past few years. Do you think he enjoys this challenge of having to work with a new quarterback, where Diego Pavia kind of felt like he was tailor-made for what Tim Beck wanted to do? Do you think he's embracing this challenge of working with new pieces and new personnel this year?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him about what verbiage he would put on this upcoming season and the work that they've done in the offseason. I do know this about Tim Beck, and he's been incredibly gifted and this is hard for coaches. Like, it's really hard sometimes to say, I've got a system, but I've got to mold and bend the system to fit who I have. Sometimes you're just like, I want this square piece to fit in this round hole, and you just kind of keep hitting it with a hammer. He is not that coach. He is really, really good and savvy and gifted at looking at his pieces more like clay rather than, pegs to be jammed into a puzzle. So I think from the perspective of, like, does he embrace the challenge of scoring points and winning games? You bet. I mean, this offense scored 500 points last year, and it did so, which is the second most in program history, with, a transcendent player, a first-round NFL tight end, but it also did so with an offensive line that was really, really good. But our 3rd and 1 conversion rate wasn't as high as he would like it to be, because they were really good for what Diego needed, but not every single time in a 3rd and 1 could the offensive line just push people back 5 yards. So Tim Beck was creative on being successful on third downs. I think that's just an example of him being creative with the people that he has. I think he will do the same regardless of kind of how that plays out this year with the pieces that he's got.
Talking with Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt football. He's down at SEC Media Days. The third player who's down there with you, Issa Wataha. And I know we talked about him when you were in studio a couple of weeks ago, but when you look at the changes for this team, could he be one of the biggest additions to this Vandy team, just getting him back from injury?
Yeah, we talked about this last time, but I'll say it again. Like, so much of the larger conversation in college sports is like, who are the transfers? Who did you bring into your program? And sometimes we just forget about people that may have missed a season because of injuries. There's also people that, grow and get better. But Issa's going into season number 5. He was a huge loss last year. He is a physically imposing presence on the inside part of that line. We need some people on the defensive line to step up. Zay Wood not there this season. He had a good year last year. Obviously, Corday Sidnor is gone off the edge. Issa is a little bit more inside. But you need some of those people to step up, and he has the potential to be an NFL-type defensive lineman on the interior. And, part of his story is the fact that he didn't start playing football until 2019. So he's 7 years in to playing football. He missed a season because of shoulder surgery. He is a huge, dominating physical presence. Getting him back alone is huge. One of the things I said before is, in 2024, we lost Zay Wood to an ankle injury during the Georgia State game. We missed him during 2024. He would have been an asset for us. I think Issa, to some extent, is just like Zay, and perhaps even more because of how dominating he can be on the interior. Does that mean he's going to go get 10 sacks? Not necessarily, but if he can absorb space and be disruptive, all of a sudden, what an opportunity for a Miles Capers, who's back once again, to really create a lot of pressure off the edge. So, man, getting Issa back and hopefully keeping him healthy is such a big deal.
Well, Andrew, we appreciate you taking some time. I know you've got a busy day down there in Tampa, so we will let you go. But thanks for your insights, and we will definitely talk to you again soon.
football season's here. Can't wait.
It is. It is. And Vanderbilt getting set to take the podium. Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt football, joining us. Appreciate him taking the time. We'll react to what Andrew had to say coming up next and look a little bit deeper into what Vanderbilt's 2026 schedule could look like. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton with you. Appreciate Andrew Allegretta joining us in the last segment, live from Tampa. Vanderbilt, next up at SEC Media Days. Right now, Alex Golish is at the podium for his first go-through as the new head coach at Auburn. Clark Lee will be coming up third today. And Robbie Stanley's favorite coach, Shane Beamer, rounds it out. We'll get into some of the other schools that are gracing the stage at SEC Media Days today, but wanted to stick with Vanderbilt. I thought that the way Andrew answered the first question is exactly the way you should frame this Vandy season, especially the way they're going to be treated at SEC Media Days. Are the national media folks today going to approach Vanderbilt with the expectation that they are what we've seen them be the last couple of years, a team that can compete with anybody in the Southeastern Conference? Is that going to become the expectation for Vanderbilt? And I think there's an argument to it, considering the investment that's been made in the program and the momentum that you've seen on the recruiting trail, whether that's in high school or in the transfer portal. Or is it going to be skepticism that Vanderbilt can repeat the success they had post Diego Pavia? That's going to be the way I think. There are two ways to frame it. Those are the two ways. I'm interested to see how the national media approaches Vanderbilt at SEC Media Days today.
Yeah, I could see it going a lot of different ways just because, there's a lot to be excited about. Coming off I would argue that's probably the best season in Vanderbilt football history, right? I know there were some good seasons in the 20s, but first the 1920s. I guess this is the 20s now.
First 10-win season in program history. I think you can say that, yeah, best season in program history.
Right. So, I think there's a lot to be excited about. I don't know. Is there one person specifically that controls the national narrative, you would say, regarding Vandy or the entire SEC?
Is it Feinbaum?
I guess.
That's the name that comes to mind because he is kind of the guy you go to for SEC football, just the way that the SEC fan base views teams. And I think most people are viewing Vanderbilt as a team that still needs to prove it. Right? I think there are a lot of casual fans who don't follow Vanderbilt very closely around the SEC and nationally who will look and say, it was just Diego Pavia. Now they're going to go back to what they were before. But yes, Diego was a big part of it. And the way Diego played last year, I think you can look at a couple of games and say, without Diego Pavia, do they get to 10 wins? Maybe they're more like an 8-win team. But that's still a huge improvement from a team that lost their final 10 games just 2 seasons ago. And I think a lot of people are going to view this as, Vandy's going to go back to being, quote unquote, same old Vandy post Diego Pavia. I just don't think you're looking at what's under the hood with Vandy having more talent up and down the lines, especially on the defensive line. I think the defensive front is going to be really good for Vanderbilt this year. The offensive line has some question marks. You lost 4 out of your 5 starters from last year. But there is just more talent. There's more investment. And I think there's a lot of momentum behind Clark Lee and that coaching staff heading into this year. Does that mean they're going to be a national championship contender this year? Probably not. But I don't think Vandy's going to go back to being a 3-9 team. I think Clark Lee has this program to a spot where they're going to be competitive, and there isn't going to be any SEC team that's going to say, we got Vandy this week, that's a win. They're going to have to show up and they're going to have to play.
This is going to sound bad just because recency bias, but I think Mark Stoops at Kentucky, he molded that program into a consistent, they're at least going to be 7-8 wins, maybe 6 every now and then type of program every year. I think he's at least built it to that. And, Mark Stoops had a couple 10-win seasons. I still think Vanderbilt will be capable of that on any given year.
Well, and I do think looking around college football, it's very difficult to become a superpower, a team that is in the college football playoff every single year. Like outside of your Ohio States, your Georgias, Alabama, it's wait and see what DeBoer is going to be long-term, but it's not easy to just build a superpower that's going to be a national championship contender every year. But in the 12-team playoff era, you can build up windows where your team, if you get the right quarterback, if you get the right pieces in the transfer portal, you can go make a run and you can compete with anybody. I think that's what Vandy's going to be. Yeah, they might be on average a 6, 7, 8-win team, but you're going to have those years. Like, let's say Jared Curtis is the guy that you expect him to be. year 3 of Jared Curtis, the year before he would go into the NFL, I don't think anybody would want to see Vandy because you can build this team around a guy you believe is going to be a star quarterback. So I think expectations for this year, I think make a bowl game. I think you put it right. I think that's what the expectations should be for Vandy this year. But I'm looking through this schedule, and I do think it's not completely unrealistic to say that this team could reach 8 or 9 wins this year. Austin P and Delaware, I'm gonna chalk those up as wins.
Yes, I do not think Vandy will have any problems. I think the ETSU days are days of the past.
Yes, yeah, I would hope so. And then I think you look at some other games at Georgia. I struggle to see Vanderbilt winning that game. Not impossible. I mean, any given Saturday, but that one is one I think you would chalk up as a loss. But outside of that, there's not another game on this schedule that I would say Vandy is a shoe-in to win or a shoe-in to lose. I think there's 9 games on this schedule that could kind of go either way. I think your stretches that are really important for Vandy are NC State and Auburn back-to-back in September. If you can win both those games and go to Athens 4-0, you've given yourself, you're playing with house money at that point. And then I think the stretch from October 17th to November 7th, Arkansas at home, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State. If you want to prove that Vandy has turned the corner and is a middle to above average team in the SEC, those are the types of games you have to go win. So I think those 2 stretches, those 5 games, if you could go 4-1 in those games, that already gets you to a bowl game, and you've still got Ole Miss at home, Alabama at home, at Florida, and Tennessee at home. You steal 1 or 2 of those, you're an 8-win team. Just like that. So I think those 2 stretches are going to be the important ones for Vanderbilt to take care of business in the games that they should win.
Yeah, I think you laid it out perfectly that 8 wins is very realistic. I mean, when you look at it like that, and I think the biggest thing here, like you were saying, the Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State stretch.
Yeah.
If Vandy does not want to be seen along those teams that are, those, I think pretty much everybody agrees that's going to be the bottom 3 of the SEC this year. You got to win all 3 of those games, in my opinion, for Vanderbilt. If you are serious about we do not want to be considered one of the bottom dwellers of this conference anymore, you got to win all 3 of those games, in my opinion.
Right. And I think Vanderbilt is more than capable of winning those games. A lot of it is just about getting competent quarterback play. And you don't know who's going to be the starter. I think a lot of people assume it's going to be Jared Curtis. I saw Joey Dwyer, who was on with Robbie and Rexroad, said this morning that Clark Lee says there's a chance they might both play early on, which I can understand the reasoning for that. Get Jared Curtis's feet wet in some of those games against teams that you should win the game no matter what, Austin P and Delaware. And then you get into, again, NC State at home. I think Vanderbilt will be favored in that game. Auburn on the road, I think that, pick them? I think it's kind of a coin flip.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the toss-ups on this schedule, in my opinion. First year of Golish, we have no idea how good or bad Auburn's going to be.
And then the stretch of Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State. I mean, you go 5-0 in those games. You win your games against Austin P and Delaware. You've got 7 wins before you even touch the other 5 games. And you get 3 of those games at home against Ole Miss, Alabama, Tennessee. Who knows what Florida is going to look like in year 1 under John Summerall. I know the Swamp isn't an easy place to go, but that's an early game. So I think there is a path to being 8-4, maybe even 9-3. A lot of it's just going to depend on what does the offensive line look like with you replacing 4 starters, and what does the quarterback play look like with either Jared Curtis or Blaise Berlowitz under center.
I think the sneaky game on the schedule for me personally is the Ole Miss game. I think Ole Miss coming to Nashville, there's a lot of history there too. I mean, I think it was 2013. It was, I think, the year that Ole Miss came to Nashville on a Thursday night, and Vandy definitely should have won that game. And they just got away from them there in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, I mean, again, if I look at this Vandy schedule, the only game that I'm like, yeah, it would be a stretch to see them winning it would be at Georgia. And I know you can't count any chickens before they hatch, right? Like, would you have said 2 years ago that Vandy would have beaten Alabama? Absolutely not. So there are no games that you can just say that's a win, that's a loss. But I'm going to chalk up Austin P and Delaware as wins. I'll probably chalk up Georgia as a game that would be very unlikely for you to win. You got 9 games left. Go win 4 of them. You're bowl eligible. And I think that's a successful season. Anything beyond that would be great in year 1 under Jared Curtis. And then you hope to take the step forward heading into year 2 in 2027.
Can you imagine the meltdown if Vandy pulls the upset against Alabama again?
Yeah. How about that?
I actually hope that happens. That would be incredible.
Yeah. I mean, Alabama last year, there was a lot of talk about that game because you were looking at two teams that were competing to get into the playoffs at that point. Vandy was undefeated heading to Tuscaloosa this year. And Alabama took care of business. I think they wanted to get their lick back a little bit. But coming back to Nashville this year, this is a different Vandy team than Alabama has faced in the past. And that one's late in the season. Maybe Jared Curtis, if he's the starting quarterback, is starting to find a rhythm. And then that Tennessee game at the end of the year is the way it's trending, it looks like it's going to be two true freshman quarterbacks playing for both these teams with Jared Curtis and Faison Brandon. And I would say by the end of the season, I would expect both those guys are playing. What a rivalry that could be over the next 3 years.
I was just about to say, I hope they both stay at their respective campuses all 3 years, maybe 4.
If they stay for at least 3 years, I mean, Brandon versus Curtis could be, I might be forgetting a serious one, but it could go down as like the greatest quarterback rivalry in this in-state rivalry of all time.
I don't know of another one. I mean,
right. I mean,
Cutler
like,
played Ainge probably, but
right.
I mean, who?
Do we talk about like, oh, those Cutler Ainge battles back in the day? Like,
and the 1 year Cutler did beat Tennessee was like the worst team Ainge was on, and that there was nothing on the line of that. I mean, obviously there was because Vandy hadn't beaten Tennessee in 24, 20,
right,
whatever, how many years it was.
There's always something on the line,
right? For sure.
I think that one's going to be really fun, especially given that Vandy just went into Neyland last year and got the win. Who knows if these teams are going to be playing for anything close to the playoff at that point? I would probably doubt it, given what we're talking about this year. But lots of bragging rights on the line. Josh Heupel said yesterday, you never want to lose to Vanderbilt. And we could be seeing chapter 1 of a phenomenal trilogy between two very talented quarterbacks if Brandon and Curtis are the starters this year. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've got one more hour left with you on this Tuesday. We'll continue talking SEC Media Days, get into some of the other teams speaking today, Georgia, Auburn, and South Carolina, and much more. Again, we'll take your thoughts on our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton with you. SEC Media Days rolling along. Vanderbilt going to speak later on this afternoon. We had Andrew Allegretta on earlier to talk about Vandy football. If you missed it, check it out on our podcast, anywhere you get your podcast. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Right now, Alex Golish at the podium. His first year as Auburn's head coach. We'll get into him in a second, but Georgia spoke earlier today. Kirby Smart heading into his 11th season. We were talking about that before the show, Christian. It's crazy to think that Kirby Smart has been there for 11 years. But it's been a few years since they've been at the very top of college football. They were dominant for 3, 4, 5 years there, won back-to-back national championships, including the blowout at TCU. But we had the conversation yesterday about the SEC not having the elite level teams over the past few years that have been able to compete with the Big Ten when you get into the college football playoff. Georgia stands out as one of the two teams that I would look at that can make a run to a national championship. We've seen Kirby Smart do it before. They've got an experienced quarterback and obviously plenty of talent up and down that roster.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to pick a team to win the national championship in the SEC this year, I think the answer is pretty clear. It's Georgia because of those reasons you just listed off. I mean, I unfortunately saw firsthand how much of a stone cold killer Gunnar Stockton can be, because I was unfortunately in attendance for that Tennessee game, and he just stuck me right in the chest. So that was fun. But yeah, I think Gunnar Stockton's the main reason why I have that confidence. Honestly, I have higher confidence in Gunnar Stockton than Arch Manning. That might be a hot take, but I think he's a better quarterback, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could make an argument one way or the other. The Manning stuff, his name is obviously going to put him to the forefront a lot of those conversations. Like I've made the point multiple times of why in these way too early 2027 mock drafts is Arch Manning the number one pick when Dante Moore likely would have been the second overall pick this year if he came out. Like I feel like that's more of a proven commodity. Arch Manning was very good down the stretch last year. The performance against A&M and into the bowl game, he had a very strong finish to the season. I think there's a lot of projection going on that he's going to take a big step this year. You've given him an elite wide receiver. He's got an elite tackle protecting his blind side. So, yeah, I like Arch Manning as a player. I think he's going to get better this year. But Gunnar Stockton has also played in those big moments, which Arch Manning hasn't. Like, Arch Manning didn't play in the SEC championship this year. He did not play in the playoffs each of the last 2 years. Gunnar Stockton did. And he's got a great running mate in the backfield with him in Nate Frazier. Of course, the defense is always loaded for Georgia. So I agree with you. Texas maybe is more talented. And when you just look at the key positions, they've got first-round picks left and right. But if you're asking me who I believe in when you get to the playoff, I'm going to take Kirby Smart and Gunnar Stockton over Steve Sarkisian and Arch Manning.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, if those two teams end up playing in Atlanta this year, who are you going to believe in more? Just because they've done it, and the last two times they've played, who's gotten the job done?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, Steve Sarkisian, very good coach. And we've seen him at other spots have success, of course, as an offensive coordinator, phenomenal offensive mind. But he hasn't coached in the playoff yet. Like, unless I'm at least as the head coach at Texas, yeah.
I guess technically they made it in 23 and 24, right?
Oh, you're right. They lost to Washington.
They lost to Washington 23. I know that feels like it was like 20 years ago at this point, because that was the last 14 playoff, and then I guess technically they lost to Ohio State in the semis in 24. But it's easy to forget those.
Man,
it's very easy to forget both of those. I feel like.
I totally forgot that Quinn Ewers played in the playoff twice.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking back, and I remember both of those games vividly.
It was pretty forgettable.
I'm going to get clowned for that on the text line. Yeah,
and I guess the main game I remember of Quinn Ewers in the playoffs was the Arizona State game.
Yes,
in the quarterfinals. That was a great game.
Man, I can't.
Which I almost went to, and I'm very disappointed I didn't get to end up going to. But oh well.
The Washington one, I'm going to give myself a pass for forgetting about, because that one was.
Like I said, that might as well be 20 years
ago.
The
14 playoff feels like decades ago, but I cannot believe I forgot that they played in the semis 2 years ago, and they lost to Ohio State. Like, that was Jack Sawyer had the pick in that game.
It was the scoop
and score. Yeah, at the very end. Yeah, that's my bad. I'll take accountability there. But Steve Sarkisian has not has not been able to win at the highest level, I guess, is still a valid point that Kirby Smart, we've seen him win back-to-back national championships and do it running away. And they played for a national championship the year Tua hit the home run ball for the touchdown in overtime. Kirby Smart's been there. He's done that. Gunnar Stockton has been in the biggest moments. Arch Manning hasn't played in those moments yet. So, yeah, if I'm picking a national champion from the SEC, I'm going to go with Georgia, although Texas definitely is talented enough to be in those conversations. For Georgia, it's just, it is just in the biggest moments, can they come through? They didn't come through last year against Ole Miss in the playoff, in the quarterfinal, even though they were playing their best football down the stretch last year. They completely stifled Alabama in the SEC championship game, but they came up short in the playoff. 2 years ago, who they lose to 2 years ago? I don't know why that playoff is escaping me.
Notre Dame, right?
You're right. Yes,
Yeah.
they lost to Notre
Also
Dame.
in the Sugar Bowl.
Yes, in the Sugar Bowl. So they haven't been able to get over the hump the last couple of years, but I think this is the year for Georgia and for the SEC where it's like, all right, you got to put up or you got to shut up. We said it yesterday. You can't keep sticking your chest out that you're the best conference out there if you're not going to come through in those big moments. And it feels like a lot of that's going to fall on the shoulders of Georgia.
Yeah, I think they're the ones that are going to have to get it done if anybody's going to do it. And it's funny. I do have them. I know we haven't gotten to the schedule yet, but I do have them 11-1. And let's see if you can guess who the one loss I have is.
Yeah, let me look.
It's a team that they usually struggle with, and because of that, I'm just like, well, I don't think they're going to go 12-0 because I don't think anybody's really going to go 12-0 anymore. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's the one loss that would make the most sense.
The Tennessee State game going to be tough.
Yeah, that will be
week
tough.
1 in Athens. They got TSU, Western Kentucky, Arkansas, Oklahoma. Is it at Alabama?
Yeah,
like that's the one that makes sense.
I don't even think Alabama's going to be that great this year, but that is the one that definitely makes the most sense.
Yeah, I agree with you that their 12-0 teams are just rare, but looking at this schedule, that's the only one that would even scare me in the slightest this year.
At Ole Miss is going to be tough, obviously. Yeah. I don't think they'll. I don't think they're going to let themselves lose to Ole Miss twice,
right?
In the span of
there's some get back there that they want. Texter 2459 says upset of the year: South Carolina beats Georgia and Columbia this year.
I had that one in a prior schedule thing I did like 2 months ago, but I've changed a lot since. But yeah, I thought about doing it for sure.
Georgia has had a couple of surprises the last few years where they lose a game, or maybe not even lose a game, but there's a game that shouldn't be close that is. Last year they scored 17 against Georgia, 16 against Georgia Tech. So they only won that one by 7.
Is that game on Black Friday?
Yes.
That's why.
Yeah.
I really don't remember anything about that game.
The Florida game last year, and like Florida, that game, we talk about the Red River Shootout with Oklahoma and Texas. Like you just never really know in that game. Georgia's always the better team, it seems like, the last decade, but you just never know if they're going to be able to pull that one off. That one is in Atlanta this year, I believe.
So stupid. They should just play it on campus. One thing I will say, I think if you flipped where because South Carolina is at the very end of the year, second to last year. If you flip that game with Arkansas, which is their SEC opener, I think I'd pick South Carolina.
I agree.
But since it's later in the year, I think they'll be fine.
I agree with that, especially with the way they open their season against Tennessee State and Western Kentucky. It's like you're not really getting tested at all early on in the season.
I think that's what helped Tennessee last year. That was the same thing last year.
Yeah, it was like, all right, who have they played? And they came in and Tennessee punched them in the mouth, and it took all the way down to the wire for them to actually pull off the win. I just don't see Arkansas being talented enough to hang in there with Georgia. But yeah, you're right. If that was South Carolina, I think I would look at that and say that one could be a trap game for Georgia. At the end of the year, though, I'm still going to pick Georgia. I'm with you. I'll go 11-1. I'll say the loss is Alabama too, just because that's it's tough to go win in Tuscaloosa. But would it shock me if Georgia went undefeated and ran the table? Probably not.
I think if anybody's going to do it, it's Georgia for sure. I mean, they have a 12-0 schedule, 100%.
Yep, I agree with you. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. You can text or call our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll continue to react to SEC Media Days, talk about some of the other teams we will see, including the South Carolina Gamecocks, who I have let it be known, they are my sleeper in the SEC this year. I think there's too much talent for them to be bad again. And if they're bad again, that means the end of the Shane Beamer era in Columbia. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton. Got a few more segments with you on this Tuesday. SEC Media Days continuing down in Tampa. Vanderbilt getting set to take center stage this afternoon along with South Carolina. We'll talk about the Gamecocks in just a minute, but let's get into Auburn here. Alex Golish coming over from USF, where they had a very successful season last year. He brings over Byron Brown. Early on in the year, USF looked like they might be the shoo-in to get the group of 5 bid to the college football playoff, and it didn't end the way that they would have hoped it would. It kind of got into a 3 or 4 team race in the American to get that last spot, with Tulane eventually coming out on top. But he goes to Auburn, and the quote that's made its way around today is he said he doesn't have any goals for his first season except for building the foundation of what football is going to look like for years to come. And for Auburn, the schedule isn't completely horrible. There's one stretch at the end of October where they go at Georgia, LSU at home, at Ole Miss, which I don't think that's going to go very well.
Neyland the week before that.
Yeah, they do Tennessee October 3rd too. So October is probably going to be a tough month for them. But they get home games against teams that it wouldn't be shocking for them to beat. Florida. Vanderbilt and Auburn was a great game last year here in Nashville that went to overtime. You get Arkansas at home, on the road at Mississippi State. So you've got some games in there that are winnable, but for Auburn, I think they're probably going to be bottom half of the SEC this year under Alex Golesh. There's still a lot of work to do when it comes to building up that team.
I think they can be bottom half, but still be encouraging.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think you can still see some signs of improvement. Hey, I don't know if they're going to beat one of those teams in October, but I mean, I think the most likely one's probably LSU, honestly. Just it's at home.
Yeah.
And I think it's the most realistic anyway, just of those teams. I mean, who knows? Ole Miss could end up being terrible out of nowhere, but I think LSU is the most likely one out of there. And I mean, if you beat LSU and you still end up like 7-5, 8-4, I think that'd be a great year one for Golesh.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A bowl game for Auburn. They went 5-7 last year. They were 1-7 in the SEC. I think just showing improvement from Hugh Freeze and it was DJ Durkin at the end of last year who took over as the interim head coach. So I think just seeing improvement in year one under Alex Golesh would be big. They played Baylor again at the beginning of the year. They beat them on the road last year down in Waco. This one is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. It's the Aflac kickoff game. So let's say they beat Baylor, they beat Southern Miss, they beat Samford. Those are their 3 non-conference games. To get to a bowl game, you got to go 3-6 in the SEC. I think it's realistic.
It's doable for sure.
Yeah, for Auburn. I don't know a ton about Golesh. I know he was with Tennessee and he was the offensive coordinator and had some success here. And, early on, it looked like he was going to, possibly take South Florida to the college football playoff last year. But again, out of it was 6 hires in the SEC. I would say he was one of the least inspiring ones for me.
Really?
Yeah. I like the Summerall hire at Florida a little bit better. Kiffin, I think you put into its own tier at LSU.
You're hiring him from another SEC school. Yeah.
I would say I like the Golesh hire probably better than Silverfield.
Definitely, for sure.
The Pete Golding one's that one's interesting too. I don't know how you compare that to others.
I put that one in with Kiffin as well. I think I would probably put Golesh ahead of Silverfield, and then I'm trying to think of who else.
I think I would go Stein over Golesh too. I like the Will Stein. So I would say out of the hires, I'd say it was 5 out of 6 for me. I think it's a better hire than Silverfield.
Fair. That's probably where I'd go too.
But I do like I think Summerall was kind of the prize to be had among group of 5 coaches this offseason.
Kentucky alum.
Yeah. Which the Kentucky, I like Will Stein. I think Will Stein was probably the prize to be had when it comes to Power 4 coordinators this year. So I think those were really good hires. And then again, Kiffin was kind of a whole different thing, leaving a playoff team to go coach at LSU. Golding its own kind of thing because they just promoted him from within. But I would say, Golesh, I like the hire, but doesn't inspire me to think Auburn is just immediately going to get back to being a top 25 team year in and year out. I think there's still some work to do there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've got him at 7-5, and I don't really have him beating anybody. I have him losing all those games in October and then losing to Alabama and then winning everything else. So I don't think that'd be a terrible year one for Golesh. I mean, you wouldn't really beat anybody too impressive, unfortunately, but still get back to the postseason, get those extra practices. Just it's going to take some time, but I think if he does it the right way, he'll be I think he's got plenty of examples of what not to do at Auburn now.
Yeah.
So that's the true. Good news.
Auburn has had some bad hires over the last few years. So Golesh, I think, is going to get a pretty long leash to try and figure this out. I think Auburn realizes that They tried to take the fast track with Hugh Freeze and see if he could recreate his success back in the SEC, and it didn't work out. I think Golish is going to get some runway to try and fix this program. But Vandy and Tennessee both play Auburn actually in back-to-back weeks, so it'll be intriguing to see what the early season looks like for the Tigers. Again, it's Baylor, Southern Miss, Florida to start the season before they play Vandy and Tennessee. We'll see those. I would pick both of the local teams to win those ones. Let's get to South Carolina here because I've said it. This is my dark horse. I think they are too talented to be as bad as they were last year, going 4-8. And there was a lot of talk about them being a dark horse playoff team, being a team that could take a step after winning 9 games back in 2024. And they took a serious step back. The schedule is moderately favorable for them this year. Now, there are some tough games in there, as there are on every SEC schedule. But you start with Mississippi State in conference play. You get Kentucky at home early on. You go to Florida, which not easy, but you go to Florida. You get Arkansas on the road towards the end of the season. Now, the last 2 weeks are going to be brutal. You're facing Georgia. You're facing Clemson. So this is a team that maybe is 7-3 at that point and could lose the last 2. But I do like South Carolina. They've got the quarterback. They've got an elite pass rusher. They've got speed on the outside in terms of weapons. So if I'm picking a dark horse in the SEC, I think it's going to be South Carolina this season.
I would have to agree. I mean, I've got them at 8-4, and I have them, winning one game. They're not supposed to. I have them beating Texas A&M. I don't think that's a crazy stretch at all, just because we've seen how they should have beaten Texas A&M last year. 31-3 comeback was insane. They should have won last year.
Yeah, the tail end of this schedule for South Carolina is not easy. Early on, I think it's realistic they could be 5-1 heading into the Tennessee game, but at Oklahoma, home against Texas A&M, Georgia at home, and then at Clemson to end the season. Although who knows what that Clemson squad is going to look like by the end of the year with Dabo Swinney, and there's been some struggles. Michael and Madison says Beamer is too much of a bozo for them to actually accomplish anything. See, I maybe it's my Virginia Tech roots. I like Shane Beamer.
I go back and
I know
forth.
he's goofy. He is goofy, but I do like Shane Beamer. I think that there are redeeming qualities there. I'm rooting for him to try and save his job, but they have to take a big step forward. You've got a guy who's being talked about as a possible first-round pick at quarterback. You've got Dylan Stewart. You're paying all this money for this roster. You've got to go and make it all worthwhile. You've got to go get wins. And I think 8 would probably be viewed as a success for South Carolina this year, but I think you at the very least have to be bowl eligible.
Yeah,
minimum.
You got to be bowl eligible at least. I think they'll do that without any problems, just because this schedule sets up pretty well. I mean, you got to go to Alabama. You chalk that up as a loss, obviously. But I mean, other than that, I haven't beaten Tennessee too. I forgot to say that. I said that yesterday.
Yeah.
I have way too much scar tissue with that stadium. It's just like Fayetteville. I can't see Tennessee.
Yeah, the 2023 game was.
Yeah, 2022.
Brutal. Oh, sorry, 2022. That's the one.
2018 they lost there. 2016 they lost there. The one time they've beaten South Carolina in Williams-Brice the last few years was during COVID, and I don't even count that.
Yeah, so. you got to give South Carolina fans credit. No matter what that team looks like, they show out for their Gamecocks at Willie B. So that'll be an interesting game later on in the season. 615-737-1025. We see you on the phone lines. We will get to you coming up next. We got a couple more segments here on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton with you. 30 minutes left on the show. Well-known South Carolina fan, Darius Rucker. I don't know if you did that on purpose there.
Oh, yes, it was definitely on purpose.
All right, good. I was making sure. I was like, man, if this wasn't on purpose, it's just a big coincidence as we're talking about the Gamecocks here. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Todd is called in. Todd, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Great job on the show today. Love the conversation. I've got 3 takes. First of all, this one's kind of personal. South Carolina, I'm a little bit of a fan of Beamer ball, and I'd love to see them be a little bit successful, but more of a personal note. They picked up a kicker from the transfer portal who's from Middle Tennessee, Bellenfont from Stewart Creek High School.
Wow.
And intriguing opportunity there. Maybe it comes down to a last kick down there in Tuscaloosa. I'd love to see Bellenfont get the win over Alabama since he walked on there. But that's going to be an uphill battle for sure. But a great kid, excited for him. Vandy, man, you know, they had the Napoleon Bonaparte and Diego Pavia. And so I just don't know that Clark Lee's got somebody that's going to be that personality like Pavia that's going to be able to, you know, get everybody to that place where they can, you know, be like they were under Diego. And then the last one, man, for some reason, gut feeling, maybe they're distracted by Indiana, but I think Texas gets the win over Ohio State to start the year. And I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Todd. I appreciate
Thank you, Coach
it.
Harris.
Yeah, that was that I like all 3 takes there. South Carolina. It is funny. You see Middle Tennessee talent spreading out more across the country. It's like there are guys everywhere who come from this region.
Yeah, it's all over the place. I love it. I mean, the high school football has just increased massively.
Right.
Like the talent.
It's become
recently.
a hotbed around here for good high school football talent. And South Carolina, again, it's just like I feel like there's too much talent on that team not to be good. They're talking about Lenora Sellers on SEC Network right now. For Vanderbilt, I do understand what Todd is saying there of Diego Pavia was such an extension of Clark Lee in the locker room and could really push the message and get everybody on the same page. Maybe Jared Curtis is that. Maybe it has to be somebody else. I don't know, but that is an important part. And Andrew said the same thing when we had him earlier, that it's not just what you do and where you come from and your star rating. It's how you connect with that locker room and can you get guys to play for you? I'm interested to see what that looks like. And I agree. I think Texas beats Ohio State.
I agree too. Yeah, I think they get it done.
In Austin, I think they win that game.
Yeah, that place will be rocking.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Lloyd is called in. Lloyd, thanks for calling. Good morning. Hello, Lloyd.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing fine. Good show. I'm enjoying it. A couple comments.
Yeah.
Noticed Heupel yesterday was pretty salty over that 2021 Ole Miss game. I think that still sticks with him. That probably should have been a Tennessee win. If you remember, they took a touchdown off the board on a defensive score.
Yep.
That was pretty controversial.
Yeah, no, the way he handled that, I thought was good. He kept it pretty light. And somebody approached Heupel yesterday after and was like, is there more to that? And he was like, no, I was just joking around. But
well, the best part is he just said it with a stone cold face.
Right.
Just no smile whatsoever. He looked extremely serious about it.
No, but I think you're right, Lloyd, that like the Lane Kiffin experience this year, he is going to be the villain in almost every single stadium he walks into.
Yeah, I can't think of a staff and a program that I want to see fail the way that I do with LSU. Guys, on Heupel, does it look like he's lost a little weight?
Yeah, maybe. We were watching him walk into Tampa yesterday, walk into the hotel room, and he's definitely not like the most fashionable coach.
I believe the term I used was auraless.
Yes,
unfortunately. But hey, he maybe slimmed down
yeah,
a little bit.
He might
hopefully
have trimmed a few pounds off.
Let's hope.
Well, that'd be a sign of good things if the team could piggyback some of the discipline and maybe stop getting so many penalties per game. I really think that's held UT back, especially last season. The season sort of spiraled. Do you think, Christian, Deshaun Bishop kind of capitalized on his 1,000-yard season? He's second year in a row being the man. I guess Dwan Morris will probably get a lot of carries too. But where do you see the running game ending up there with Tennessee?
I mean, Deshaun Bishop's definitely your RB1 for sure. I mean, I think I saw, it was about a month ago or so, but I think it was ESPN that did it. They had most likely player from pretty much every team in the country to be an award winner, like for their position. They had Deshaun Bishop, Doak Walker, and I could definitely see him. I don't know if he's going to win it, but I could see him being a finalist at the end of the year for sure. I mean, Tennessee runs the ball. People forget that, but that's like the main part of the offense is running the football. So I think he's going to be a big focal point of the offense.
No, I think he might be their best player. And you mentioned Dwan Morris too. I saw him play down at Oakland. I mean, that is a very talented young player. So I think the running back room is going to be a pretty big strength for this Tennessee team. Lloyd, we appreciate you calling in.
Keep it up, guys. Thanks.
615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. I love that Lloyd says Josh Heupel losing some pounds could lead to more discipline from Tennessee.
Let's hope. I was going to say give all the food Heupel wants to eat and just give it to McIntyre. He needs the pounds.
That's
kind
true.
of like me. He's a skinny guy like me. Just give all Heupel's food to McIntyre.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Josh Heupel has been dieting and they've been giving his extra food to George McIntyre.
I mean, I think he's still like 207, I think was the listed weight I heard the other day. So it's still, I mean, it's definitely better than he was, but it's still pretty skinny.
Yeah, I know. Heading into the spring, Parker and I had the conversation about Faison Brandon versus George McIntyre and where do they need to improve to win the starting quarterback job? And for Faison Brandon, I think a lot of it was, all right, he's got to get caught up on the system. He has not been in this offense for a full year like George McIntyre has. He needs that time to get into the playbook and learn the way Josh Heupel likes his offense run. For George McIntyre, a lot of the issues were physical. Is his body going to be able to hold up playing an SEC schedule? And I think the reason Faison Brandon has turned into the favorite in this quarterback competition is because you've seen him develop more on the mental side of the game than George McIntyre has developed on the physical side of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's like you said, it's the two areas they both needed to improve. I think Faison has taken a bigger leap than McIntyre. Now, you never know. And here's the thing nobody's thinking about. Tennessee could still end up needing both of them. The guy that ends up winning the job could end up getting hurt. We saw that in 21. Joe Milton won the job originally over Hendon Hooker, and then he got hurt in the Pittsburgh game. Hooker took the reins and never looked back. And then obviously Milton came back later, but you just never know what can happen with these things. It's crazy to think that Hendon Hooker could have never had the Heisman caliber season he had in 2022 if Joe Milton never gets hurt in that Pittsburgh game.
Right. You just never know. And sometimes it's, the practice and fall camp is different than what it looks like when you actually start playing football. And I think that was kind of Joe Milton in shorts and a t-shirt. There may not be a quarterback who looks better than him. He's big, he's fast, he's got a rocket for an arm. And I can see how going through fall camp, like Hendon Hooker, he was fast and he was accurate, but it's not quite as flashy. But it's like when you get into the game and the live bullets start flying, Hendon Hooker just knew exactly where the ball needed to go. And he was able to deliver in that Heupel offense. Unlike Joe Milton was fine the full year he was a starter, but clearly wasn't as crisp and as efficient as Hendon Hooker was. Sometimes you just don't know until you see those guys start playing actual football.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like Hendon Hooker and Josh Dobbs both, I'm pretty sure I've heard terrible practice players. It just is what it is. But I mean, both of them at different times in their college careers. I mean, the NFL is a different story. I mean, Josh has made a pretty good NFL career for himself.
Yeah,
Hendon's kind of struggling, but both of them, whenever the lights came on, they both turned it on. And it's just always been interesting to me how that ends up happening. Cause it's like, you'd think if you're playing the same sport, why doesn't it just translate over to the practice field? And I guess it's just some guys, they got to have the pressure on them, I guess. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just the lights come on and things click for these guys. And that's why, as excited as we are for training camp, I also am kind of dreading it because we get so locked in on every single rep that we see. And it's like, on the August 4th practice, what was Cam Ward thinking here? And it's like, this is a disaster. And it's like, in week 2, are we really going to be remembering what happened in these training camp practices? It's like, I get it. It's what we have to talk about at that moment. And we get so excited for training camp where you've got real reps to talk about every day. But it is funny. It's like some of these guys just aren't very good practice players, and you just don't know what you're going to see until they actually hit the football field.
Yeah, I guess would we say Cam Ward is a good practice player? Jury's still out. What is our
I don't
take
know.
there?
I don't know. Based on the kind of the reports from OTAs, I would say maybe he's not a very good practice player.
Hey, you know what? That's not the end of the world if he ends up just being an elite quarterback. Who cares? Who cares how good
Right.
he's in practice?
No, it is just funny because it's like we look forward to training camp and we're like counting down the days to training camp. And by the middle of training camp, I'm sure I will be counting down the days of, God, can we please stop talking about practice and start playing real football? But it'll be here before we know it. And both local schools in the SEC have a lot to figure out before their opening game on September 5th. Who's going to start under center? George McIntyre, Faison Brandon for Tennessee, Jared Curtis, Blaze Berlowitz, and so on and so forth for Vanderbilt. So lots of questions to be answered. Vanderbilt going to take the podium soon, and I'm sure that Clark Lee will be asked about his quarterback situation coming up within the next hour or so. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've got one more segment left on this Tuesday. We'll wrap up the show after this. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Christian Skelton, wrapping up the show on this Tuesday. Chasing Big Joe coming up after us. Corey Curtis going to join us for the full show tomorrow. Got lots to get into with Corey from SEC Media Days, getting ready for Titans training camp. So excited for that. I did want to look at this article from ESPN that I saw this morning, Christian. It's kind of a strange format. Bill Connelly put this out. College football ifs list. How national title contenders can come together. I'm not really as interested in what the ifs are, but he kind of groups national title contenders into different tiers. He's got 9 teams in the top tier. We had said 6 teams could win the national title. We were thinking in conferences yesterday. I forgot to add Notre Dame in there. I would add Notre Dame as number 7.
Yes, Notre Dame. Yeah, that join a conference you won't be forgotten about. But whatever.
Yes. But the other 2 teams that are in this tier that we didn't bring up yesterday, LSU and Texas Tech, which I would agree that they're probably the next grouping beyond those 7, which those 7, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Miami, Notre Dame. I think those are the 7 teams I look at and say they've got a legitimate shot to go win a national title. LSU, we said it yesterday, talented enough to win a national title for sure. But it's a wait and see mode for me because you see it all the time. These teams that are built primarily through the transfer portal, sometimes it doesn't click. And Lane Kiffin has not been able to get over the hump no matter where he's gone and go win the big one. So I'm in a wait and see mode there. Texas Tech, I think I would have added to that conversation had they not lost Brennan Sorsby. But I agree. Those are probably the next 2 teams beyond the 7 that we listed.
See, it's interesting for Texas Tech with me because I'm like, obviously Brendan Sorsby's would have been an upgrade over what they've got now post, gambling scandal and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm like, does he really affect them that much, good or bad either way? Because I'm like, I looked at what he did last year. I was like, okay, he was a solid quarterback, but I didn't think he set the world on fire like a lot of people did. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm like, if Texas Tech was going to be good, I still think they'll be pretty solid without him. If they were going to be bad, I still think they would have been bad without him.
I think they're going to be the same team they were last year. They're going to be a team with a really good defense.
Because all they didn't have last year was basically a quarterback, right?
Right. Yeah. Because Baron Morton got into that game against Oregon and couldn't do anything against a legitimate defense. And I feel like Will Hammond, you're going to get probably very similar results this year. Sorsby, it's not like he was a world beater at Cincinnati, but he was an upgrade for sure at quarterback. And I think it would at least have made Texas Tech think they could play with the top teams in the Big Ten and the SEC. I think they're the same team that they were last year. The next tier, 3 teams, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma, all SEC teams. I would agree. That's probably the grouping of SEC teams that are good enough to make the playoff, but not good enough to actually make a run.
I think I'll probably have all 3 of those teams either going 10-2 or 9-3. So that's completely fair. They're all comparable to me for sure.
You could probably put Alabama in there too.
I would agree.
But I wanted to get to the end of this list, which are kind of like your long shots. There are 5 teams that Bill Connelly lists here as national championship long shots. USC. I think USC is interesting because Maeva is good. They do lose some pass catchers from last year with Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. Is Lincoln Riley's offensive genius going to shine through? And can they actually get into the playoff? They've been close a couple of times, but haven't been able to do it, at least since he's been at USC. They've got Gary Patterson now as their defensive coordinator. USC is interesting to me. I don't think I would put them up in that top tier of the Big Ten, but they're one of those sneaky teams that I think you need to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, Maeva, I can't really get a read on. I don't know. I probably did not watch a single USC game last year. Now that I think about it, maybe when they played Oregon late in the year, but yeah, I can't get a read on him whether I think he's truly one of those elite quarterbacks. A lot of people are saying that they think he is.
Michigan is also listed here.
Okay.
Which Bryce Underwood, if he takes a pretty big leap from year 1 to year 2, I think it's not completely out of the question, but I just also Whittingham was great at Utah. Is he going to be able to do it at a higher profile program like Michigan? Then Tennessee is listed, which if they have the quarterback, like it's not national championship, but if they have the quarterback, I think playoff could be in the cards.
Oh, I agree for sure. I mean, it's a freshman quarterback. It's probably not going to happen, but it's not the most unrealistic thing in the world to think about, just because, like we talked about yesterday, the weapons that whoever it is, it's probably going to be Faison, but the weapons that they'll have around them, you can't do much better of the situation getting thrown into in your freshman year. I mean, the wide receivers are great, running backs great, O-line's great. I mean, like I said, if the quarterback was better, like if Tennessee got Levitt or Tennessee got
right,
it's kind of funny. They kind of dodged a bullet not getting
Sorsby.
Because Sorsby is definitely a possibility,
right? Because wasn't his girlfriend played at Tennessee?
Something. I think she ended up transferring,
and then she transferred to Texas Tech, which was everybody kind of pointed to as, oh, that's where he's headed. Yeah, might have dodged a bullet there. And then the last two teams listed, BYU and Missouri.
I don't see it.
I mean, if we're going just full on long shots, sure. I probably wouldn't have put Indiana in the grouping last year preseason of like teams I think can win the national title, but I really do think it comes down to 7, maybe 8 teams.
Yeah.
Like LSU is the maybe for me, but I think those top 7 teams are kind of a tier above everybody else.
I think I would have put Indiana last year in the tier this year that like Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oklahoma are in. Like
possible playoff
not
team.
Completely impossible, but probably not, you know?
Right. So you just never know in college football. Teams can take big steps from year to year, especially with the transfer portal. But I do think that those 7 teams, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Miami, Notre Dame, like those are the 7 teams I look at and say, those are national championship caliber squads. They could go all the way this year. Anybody else I think would be a surprise, but that's why we love college football. You just never know what's going to happen.
You never know. Any given Saturday.
I still haven't heard whether they're coming out with a second season on Netflix.
Yeah,
I would assume it's a no.
I was thinking about that the other day because, like, I don't know if we had a trailer at this point last year, but we at least knew it was coming. Well, I feel like we would have known by now.
They screened the first episode at SEC Media Days last year for media. Like you could go in and watch it on, I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday night.
And you were there last year, right?
I was there for Vandy when it was in Atlanta. So, yeah, hopefully we get a second season of that, but I haven't seen any announcements.
Yeah, me neither, unfortunately. I loved that show. I thought it was great.
Christian, appreciate you filling in again today. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Appreciate the opportunity again.
With Corey Curtis in with us. Big thanks to Julian Mininsohn, as well as Andrew Allegretta for joining us. And live in studio, Daylom Swearingen from PBR as we get ready for Stampede Days in August. That does it for us. Chasing Big Joe coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.